Hey everybody, it's noon East Coast time. Carm Capriato, another CarmCast as we continue to dive into the CARES Act, COVID-19, the pandemic, the unprecedented times that are going on in our world, in our lives. And we're all automotive aftermarket people that are open businesses. We're essential. Yet we have an opportunity to get some money for the PPP. And we are revisiting with a couple of shop owners who were on with me a couple of weeks ago, and also revisiting with Hunt Demarest, CPA from Pars Mellis. Hunt, I think this may be your third time.
I think so.
Good to
Yeah,
have
in
you here. I
quick
mean,
succession.
yeah, you are a Facebook star. You've been on a lot of shows and an awful lot of seminars. And thank you from all of us for what you're doing to keep us, if you will, trying to walk straight line when it comes to all of this stuff, especially on the CARES Act. So we're going to talk about how Kelly, Keith, and Andy experienced. They were with us 2 weeks ago, and they applied. We want to find out where their status is now. And we also want Hunt to give us an update as to what he knows about how quickly the money went away, if there's any secrets or ideas on how we could, when the CARES Act Phase 3.5 gets approved today or tomorrow, maybe he can give us some pointers on that. And we have had a pre-call just before we got on. A ton of great, very interesting things being going to be talked about here on this CarmCast. Hunt, I want to open it up to you.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for having me on here. I think that the biggest thing that we've noticed in the last week is, the money dried up. We knew from the get-go that the money was going to dry up. We didn't know how fast it was going to happen. We didn't know in what way it was going to happen. Really, I think that, the 1,000-foot look at it is most of these smaller banks got it done for our clients in our shops. Most of these big banks have completely dropped the ball here. Some of that was to the fault of people not getting their applications in late, but most of this was just these big banks were not prioritizing small businesses. All the information was in there. We were getting no sort of updates from it. I talked to a number of clients that said, all right, I had my application in with Chase. I called my banker up that I deal with at Chase. They say that they're not sure, that I got called a PPP department. I call that department, either no one picks up or they say, we're not sure at this point. That sort of gridlock is something that we didn't foresee happening. Really, ultimately, when this first started, I felt that these bigger banks, with getting these web portals and stuff set up, that they will actually be able to get this done much faster than the smaller banks. And that's just really not the case. So as of Wednesday night of last week, they actually stopped accepting all applications. They still had a little bit of money. Well, a little bit of money is kind of a funny thing, because I think at the end of Wednesday night, they had $25 billion left over. But what they said was, we're not accepting any applications. We're going to go through the applications that we have here now and approve or, fund whoever's in the circle right now. And so if you haven't been funded already and you've submitted your application, you're really in one of two camps. Either you're submitted, or either you're approved by the SBA and you're still waiting for your bank to fund, or you didn't get your information in time and it's still now on your bank's end of things.
So wait, one more time. You're submitted and approved. Say,
And so that's the big thing that we're looking for. And so a lot of people that haven't been funded here, that don't know where they stand, the number one thing that you should ask your bank is, have we been approved by the SBA? If you've been approved by the SBA, they're going to give you a confirmation number. That confirmation number means that, Carm, your business has money set aside. It's earmarked to your federal ID number. It might not be in your account yet, but it's earmarked for you. It's good to go.
got it. And how many out there of your clients are in that stage where they're approved, but they have not gotten the money? And do they have to wait for the new vote on Phase 3.5 to get it?
So if you have an SBA number and you've been approved by the SBA, it means of that 350 billion that was there before, that money's earmarked for you. You're
Okay.
funded. It's just a matter of when, not if.
It's taking time to say, to God bless this money, to flip a switch. What do you think the holdup is?
So I think the big holdup here is actually on the bank level, because the SBA doesn't actually give these banks any money until down the road when they do the forgiveness. And so I think what these banks are doing right now is they're making sure that they're covering all their bases to make sure that they have all this information for your business on file. The last thing that they want to do is not do an account or a packet correctly And then when they go back to get that money forgiven, the SBA says, hey, you missed X, Y, and Z. We're just not going to give you that money back. And now these banks are stuck. A lot of these banks, if you're going with a new bank, they're also setting you up as a new customer. And so there's information in the Patriot Act where they have to confirm that you're truly a business, that you're truly able to get this money. And so I think that's kind of the holdup that we see on the smaller bank level right now.
Hunt, Kim Arnheimer says, I am E-Trans status. Still with the bank? What's that
And
mean?
so that's kind of one of the things that we've been seeing with businesses across the country is that every bank has their own definition of what process you're in. The way that this works for all banks is the banks get your information, they get your packet. What the bank's responsibility to do is to take kind of a cursory glance at this to say, okay, what you've submitted looks accurate and all the documentation is there. Once you've been approved by the bank, then they're going to submit that to the SBA. I'm guessing that that's what that e-transit. It's been electronically transmitted to the SBA. Once the SBA receives it, then they either approve it or deny it. Most people that have said, hey, it's still with the SBA, it's been like that for days, I don't believe what the bank is saying, because for the most part, what I've seen is when the SBA gets it, they either say it's good to go or you're missing this, and they move on. It's usually within a matter of hours, at the very most, a one day that they're getting that information back.
Randy Pickering says, we are in that waiting situation, waiting for bank docs to sign. Does that sound logical in this process?
Yeah, and so that's what we've been seeing a lot. So, hey, Randy, how are you doing? But we've seen a lot of people that are in that exact same situation. Randy's got his money earmarked from the SBA. The SBA says your bank is eligible to give you this money whenever they please. And then what the banks are doing now is just like you got any other loan, they're making sure that they have the loan documents, they're making sure they have all your signatures, making sure they have your articles of incorporation, all of that stuff to make sure that it's all formalized.
Wow. Hey, I can't believe the chatter we're having here on Facebook. Thank you all so much for being here and asking questions of our panel. Of course, have Hunt Demarest, CPA, and 3 shop owners with us. Good to have Andy Bizub from Midwest Performance Cars, Keith Cass from Quality Service Center in York, PA, and Kelly Weatherby from Accurate Automotive in Mesa, Arizona. Chime in anytime you guys have. And if you have any questions for the shop owners, Angie Roca, I got the PPP loan and I see today that I got the SBA disaster advance.
Wow.
Should I give that $10,000 to pay back my PPP loan? Well, that's interesting.
Yeah, and so that's really kind of one of the confusing things right now is for the longest time, a lot of people apply for the SBA disaster grant or the EIDL grant, whatever acronym you want to call it. And for the longest time, we didn't know what was going on with that program. They just weren't giving out any money. About the start of last week, we've seen people actually get that grant money. Now, the thing with the grant money is it doesn't affect the amount of PPP money that you get. However, it will affect your forgiveness. And so if you got a loan for $100,000 from the PPP, that $100,000 is not going to be affected by the grant. However, if you got a $10,000 grant, only up to $90,000 of your PPP loan is now going to be able to be forgiven. You can't kind of get it from both buckets, if that makes sense.
What would you use the EID 10,000 for?
So the stipulations of what you can use the grant for are a little bit more broad than what the PPP is. Essentially, you can use it for payroll and general operational expenses to keep your business going. The thing that you can use the PPP for, or I'm sorry, the grant money for, is actually payroll back to, I believe, the middle of February. So I don't think that we have any issues on what we spend on that PP or on that grant money. One of the things that I'm telling my clients right now is let's focus on the PPP. Let's put that grant money in a savings account right now. Let's just leave that alone. Let's not touch that. I think that we're going to get better guidance on how we refinance that into the PPP or factor that into the forgiveness. And then once we get clear guidance on it, then we'll make a determination there.
Boy, that is smart.
That's what I had heard too, is that, you kind of just put that away for right now, because it's all kind of like the monies are coming through and some people are not having good luck getting the monies, but maybe coming into the next round. But the guidelines really are still very unknown. And so, just if you're going to spend any of it, you need to be very, very careful in putting that paper trail with it.
So let's talk about some timelining here. Craig Zale says we originally applied April 6th, then received the approval the 13th, and then funded on the 21st. Keith, Andy, Kelly, was that about your time frame?
It's funny, Carm, because that's almost exactly my time frame. Last time we were on here, I had already been approved from my bank and from the SBA, and in fact, the day after the podcast, I got an email from my bank saying you should see the money in the next day or two. I didn't get my money until the 20th, just yesterday, as a matter of fact. And the holdup was they didn't know what was happening with the EIDL money. And so they were not going to release it till I knew they wanted to know if I got the EIDL money, and I hadn't at that point. So I actually had to resubmit an application to my local bank, taking that money back out, and then everything flowed. It was really an interesting scenario there.
So my back those days up 3 days, and that's basically what our timeline was. And my holdup was the bank actually papering the loan itself. The bank was really efficient at submitting. My bank, I'm with a small regional commercial bank, business focused. I just talked to them this morning. They processed and lent out $200 million in PPP loans. They processed 100% of all their applications from their customers.
Wow.
That's awesome.
So,
That's
now they are taking on, like, I've referred a couple people to them. Unfortunately, they're only focused in the Chicago area, but this is absolutely the difference between having a one-to-one banking relationship with someone you can call or email versus being with a gigantic bank. Right. And I've said this many times. I've been on several pages, forums. We tell people, hey, we're higher quality, we charge more, but here's why you should come to us. We sell our value. And then some of us go to these mega banks because we get cheap deals. We get slightly cheaper loans. We get free checking. And then when the chips are down in times like this, that's when it really is the difference. I will pay a little bit more at my regional bank because when I need them, they were there.
Hey, I want to make a comment. This Friday's Town Hall Academy, Hunt's going to be back, and we're going to do, since you're the favorite here, Hunt. Hunt's coming back, and we're going to do a Town Hall Academy on the value of a CPA relationship, your accountant's relationship with the business. And I just know that there's just too many out there that have bookkeepers, and they're just popping their numbers into a piece of software and then running a statement off at the end of the year and then trying to get a tax return done and not going to a professional enough. And I think we've been able to prove, number one, banking relationships, and we're going to do a show on that. And we're also this Friday going to do a show on the value of your accountant's relationship. So thanks for coming back for that, Hunt. Thank you. So let's talk about phase 3.5. Can you give us just a little highlight of that, Hunt?
Yeah, and so really what's coming out right now, and like Andy was saying before, that they claim to have come to an agreement. We've heard that before. We'll see if they can actually come through that. But really what it is really three pieces from what I've heard. It's going to be a major piece to influx money back into the PPP for everyone. Doesn't matter, what you have, ownership structure, it's just going to be increasing what they have going on there. There's also going to be, I believe that they were talking about $150 billion that's going to go to hospital systems, either state and local hospitals. And then they were going to earmark some money that's going to be set aside for disadvantaged businesses.
I actually have the numbers. 310 billion PPP. Of course, that ran out 10 days ago. 60 billion for EIDL, 75 billion for hospitals, and 25 billion for coronavirus testing. This round is 470 billion. We're going to have hiccups just like we had the last time. Hunt, if I was in and wasn't approved, am I kind of in the front line, do you think now?
Depends on what bank you're with. I think if you're with a local regional bank and you just maybe delayed on it, or maybe that they had a bit of a delayed start on it, you have that relationship, I would call them up and say, hey, when this does open back up, do we have everything that we need to submit? Because essentially what the banks need to do is they need to upload this to the SBA's portal. So as long as the bank says, yes, you're good on our end, as soon as we're allowed to, we're going to submit, then I'm probably not jumping ship right now. I'm not panicking.
And
Now,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Now, if I'm with a big bank like Chase, like Bank of America, I'm probably not going to sit back and let them try and get another crack at this because I think that they've proven that they can't get this done. I would probably still let them work on this right now, but I'm going to be looking at PayPal. I'm going to be looking at Intuit. I'm going to be looking at Cabbage and get those applications in. Their money's just as green as anyone else's. And whoever jumps on this and whoever submits to the SBA first, I'll cancel my other applications. But we can't afford to sit back and wait another 2 weeks for Chase to get this done because we could miss the second boat as well.
You just answered my question. I was going to say, should we just wait for this thing to be approved, or should we start making the phone calls, stay in the face of a lender?
Yeah, we should. I mean, I know PayPal right now is you can submit to PayPal right now and they'll process your entire application. And then you're sitting in queue. As soon as the SBA opens back up their website, they will submit to the SBA and then you will go through that process.
Got it. Question, Hunt. No, that's the wrong one. Sorry. How about this one? Can I use PPP monies to pay the company paid 401k and health benefits?
That's it.
Yep. And so you can pay the employer portion. So the 401k would be the match. And then for health benefits, it would be whatever the company pays, not whatever the employees are contributing towards it.
Got it. So it's all monies that the company would spend.
Exactly.
Got it.
Hey,
Thank you for that question, Steve. Yes, Kelly.
Sorry to interrupt you, but something
please.
came to my mind when Hunt was talking, and you were before that talking about hiccups. And I thought it would be worth mentioning something that happened during our timeline that was a hiccup if I wasn't paying pretty close attention. And that is during the application period. In our case, Lee and I are 50-50 owners, so we had to put in 2 separate emails. And I was watching my timeline like a hawk, on my email. But I happened to be in Lee's email looking up something that had come through, and the loan docs actually were asked for on his email. Mm-hmm. Holy smokes. If I hadn't have been in his email, that could have been on unnoticed for weeks. So I wanted to just put that out there in case that might happen to somebody else. Please be very mindful of what emails you put in on the application and keep your eye on both of those emails just in case something happens like what happened to us. The email for the loan doc requirements came on his email instead of on my email where I was getting all the news from our bank. So that was worth mentioning.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. By the way, this CarmCast always gets repurposed. It's on my CarmCast page on my website at remarkableresults.biz. It'll be on my YouTube channel in a few hours once YouTube has its thing with it. Kim has a question. Would love to know as well, understood from SBA, that means that they are looking at the EIDL application?
And so I think she's referring to someone else's comment here about the SBA checking that your credit score.
Oh, thanks.
So,
yes, great.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I mean, and so they are pulling credit, it seems like, for some people. Yeah. For a lot of people, they just seem to automatically be depositing in there. And there seems to be no real rhyme or reason to this. We had some people that were funded really early on it, and I've had some people emailing me today that they see a pending deposit in their account. There's no emails on it. It's just I had a client call me up this morning and say, hey, I have a $6,000 pending deposit in there. What is this? And we looked at it, and sure enough, that was the EIDL money. So it's, I think someone asked before, is there a way to check your status on it? No. I think I had one of my clients call the other day to check, and they got put on hold, and they said that they were number 1,600 in line to speak with someone. So.
Like we don't have anything else to do.
Right.
Exactly. He actually sat on hold. He said, you know what, that's fine. I'll put it on speaker. I'll go about my day. God. Yeah. And then they end up not being able to give him any information. So
that's right.
How about this question? Any problem with having more than one application out there, Hunt?
So, Barbara, one of the things is we can have plenty of applications out there. We only want one of them to get submitted to the SBA. And so as soon as I hear one of my banks, one of my choices here has submitted to the SBA, I'm immediately pulling the other ones.
Okay, so you just can't ignore them. You better pull them, right? Is the SBA going to get mad at you?
They probably wouldn't be too happy about it if you were approved for 2 and you took 2. There has to be hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of people out there that are doing the exact same thing. Realistically, you're not going to take money from both sources. So worst case scenario, you miss it and they say, hey, PNC has accepted me from the SBA and PayPal has accepted me. Obviously, I'm going to deny one of those and just take one.
Well, good stuff. Hunt is here because he is a CPA to many, many shop owners. He knows our industry inside and out. His whole firm does. We've had them on in the podcast in the past. Hunt, I thank you so much for lending your time to help our industry really get through this and obtain the funds that they're available. We're small business, and we really rock our world. Lots of talk, guys, Keith, Andy, Kelly, on trying to open up our economy. Our governor from New York seems to be a primetime star now, and he's on there talking. And so he's actually in Buffalo giving his speech today. Of course, that's my hometown. And he said that we're going to give the local regions opportunities to open it up at their pace based on, federal and state guidelines. What are you hearing? And is that exciting to see that maybe there's some light?
Well, I think for our car count, it's going to be fantastic once people are not as afraid to come out. Obviously, I think that in Arizona anyway, they're talking about little by little. Of course, it's not going to be open the door and come out, but they're going to phase it, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And I think that'll support a great opportunity for car count, so people are not as afraid to come out.
Yeah.
In Chicago, we have a mayor who's criticizing the governor of Florida for opening up, despite the fact that Florida has half as many cases as Illinois does of COVID. So we're a lockdown state. You can't golf here, although you can golf in all the states around us. It's a lot of nonsensical stuff, but this kind of leads me to a point I want to make. There's a box on the application that you check for the effects of COVID affecting your business. If I've seen a lot of people who said, I'm not even applying for this. I don't need the money. I'm in good shape. We don't have visibility 1, 3, 6, or 12 months down the road. We don't know what things are going to be like this fall. We don't know if there's going to be a second recurrence of this. And also, if one of your employees tests positive for COVID,
oh man,
you could be shut down.
Mm-hmm.
So this is not the time to be, too proud to, if you end up not needing the money, you can always just pay it back.
Right.
But it's really the time to be doing the insuring and protective and responsible thing for your business.
I was going to say it's not just for you, Andy, or Keith. It's not for me only either. It's for the families of the people that we employ.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's not just a personal situation, because yes, maybe our bank accounts are looking healthy, and maybe you personally are healthy and doing all that you can, but you don't know what's going to, like you say, you don't have that crystal ball that's saying all my guys are going to stay healthy and our business is just going to go on as usual. That's not for us to say. So that PPP money was really applied for, in our case, for the fact that we don't have the crystal ball, and I'm not a gambling gal. Right. I want to make sure my people are taken care of and that they're not having to go on the unemployment line and doing those kinds of things. The best way that we can, we're going to keep them going in the right direction and being able to buy groceries or toilet paper or whatever they want to buy.
Sure.
It's a matter of being proactive, in my opinion, rather than reactive. So, who said it? Andy, I think. If you don't need it, just send it back there when you're done. But, in our state here, our governor has just extended it for another week now. So we're now into May sometime till it gets released. But, everything's still shut down.
So here's my thinking, and my heart bleeds for the small business people, for our industry, that we find some kind of what is the new normal. And we're going to have a podcast in 2 weeks on a Town Hall Academy, another panel to discuss what's the new normal from a shop owner's perspective. But here's my warning to, even if I live in the country, and if they relieve what we're doing out here and we can go to our local watering hole, they're still good. We still cannot relax. My point is, we cannot relax and think the masks come off, the gloves come off, and we can't cough in our elbow anymore. We have to pay attention to this. Andy mentioned it. God, we could have a relapse. And here's the thing that I heard today: when they really start ramping up testing and they find positive, there's so many asymptomatics that they have found with the antibodies. They're so surprised. If you heard the story this morning, potentially 50% more cases in LA of COVID because of the asymptomatic. The person doesn't have the symptoms, but they have COVID. Well, how long will those antibodies last? You know, every time you get a cold, you build antibodies up to that cold. And when they start testing and they find a COVID case, then they have to start tracing. And to your point, if someone gets COVID inside of your business and you've got to either be shut down or you've got to figure out how to decontam that facility, we're getting we could get loose, a little loosey. And I think we need to keep our guard up. Agree with me or not, gang?
Absolutely. Yeah. This is really hunker down time, and we're not out of the woods. This is going to take longer than everybody thinks to get back to some kind of a new normal. And here's another point I really want to make. For anybody who did get PPP funding, this is really the time to be disciplined with your spending.
Oh.
Do not look at that new Hunter Hawkeye elite and be like, all right, what we did, we put the money in a separate account. We're only going to draw the qualified expenses out of that account, so that at the end of this time, we're going to say, hey, if we use only 50% for payroll and there's a 25% left over that we didn't use, pay it back.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, we're only looking for what the program looks. We're not looking to, go around.
And like we've talked about, the timeline is unknown. So, I mean, if you're not disciplined with every bit of that money transfer,
Yeah.
You could find yourself into the spot where you were when you were filling out the original application.
Sure.
So
I love tools. I love shopping for tools.
Sure.
I'm not going out and buying a tool.
Only spend the money when you're in pain. Okay.
That's it.
When you're in pain. Here's a comment from Tracy Klein. Might you have another podcast talking about loan forgiveness? I received the funds today, but I'm concerned about hiring or hitting that 75% of my payroll in 8 weeks. I have some employees who may not return to work after our state live summer actions. And I think Andy just explained to it. If you don't use it, you should just send it back. Is that the answer?
There's ways that we can get creative on this. Obviously it's a use it or lose it type situation. And so, one of the things that I've seen a lot for people who, just have a shop and everyone is there is, if your business is down 50 or 60% and you pay flat rate accordingly, you're probably not going to meet the, 100% forgiveness. It's just not possible. And so I've seen a number of shops raising the guarantees, raising the minimums to make sure that not only are they taking care of their team, but they're also, utilizing the forgiveness amount as well. And then there's obviously different things that we can do. If you're a husband and wife and only one of you is taking payroll, possibly we bring another person on payroll. We're going to be using those forgiveness money and putting money in our own pocket. Possibly we got some people getting raises, whether that's us or our employees. But really what I want people to do is just kind of forecast this. If someone wants to share it, I made, kind of a quick, easy spreadsheet to forecast this 8 weeks. And then what I want people to do is we need to start planning on this now. Just like we were saying before, we need to be proactive, not reactive. And so I don't want to come to halfway through the last week and say, oh, wow, I'm $7,000 short, because we're just not going to be able to use all the money. I want to start this plan right now and say, okay, I have $80,000. I want to see $10,000 going out of that every single week, so that come the end of these 8 weeks, I'm done. I've got everything forgiven. If I do my forecast right now and I come out and I'm going to spend $85,000, perfect. I just need to keep an eye on it and make sure that I'm going on that trend. Now, if I do this and I'm at 70,000, I need to start making some plans. Am I going to bonus people? Am I going to, increase some different expenses? What am I going to do to utilize that?
Yep. Hey, I want to do one really quick thing as I want to share my screen, and on the homepage, on my homepage, what Hunt was just talking about, I actually have it. You see it right here? It says Parmelis PPP loan forgiveness calculator tool. Download an Excel spreadsheet. So it's on my Remarkable Results Radio homepage where I have all the COVID stuff there. So cool. Perfect. Thank you for bringing that up, Hunt. Appreciate that. There was another question here. Scott Hager, can I put myself on the payroll? I've never taken a paycheck in 20 years.
So if you've never taken a paycheck in 20 years, it probably means that you're a sole proprietor. So you're not actually eligible to go onto payroll as it stands right now. What you're going to have to do is look for guidelines on how they're treating self-employed people. It's a little bit different. Essentially, it works out to be your wages or whatever you pay self-employment on. It's going to be calculated off of your last year's taxes. So it can get a little complicated there.
Thanks, Hunt. I have one tech who is not coming back and am hiring two in its place. Is this going to be a problem? I'm assuming no.
No, two is better than one, right?
But they didn't have to be on the payroll in order to use the funds.
So one of the things that they're looking at here that this kind of gets into is there's a penalty if you go down on employees. And so if you have 10 full-time employees coming into this and you have 8, when they take a look in the forgiveness period, you're going to be penalized. What they haven't come out is given official guidance on how they're going to test that. But if you're going from 1 tech and you're going to 2, then I would have to say that we're in the clear there as of right now.
Wow.
So the guidelines and all this, if I am understanding right, is the 26th or thereabout. They're going to be really getting into that. Is that right?
Yeah, the 26th, I think, is when they're going to come out and they're going to give all the authoritative guidelines on it. But if it's anything like some of these announcements before, they make a grand thing and they come out with a frequently asked questions, and then it gives more questions than answers.
Okay, so here's a complicated one for you, Hunt. I think it just covered up your face. We have a tech that will start collecting Social Security. Oh, my God. This is so long. Hunt, why don't we take that off screen?
That made all our heads blow up.
Hunt, do me a favor. Go back to my Facebook post, look at this thing, and answer it off the side, because I think this may go on for a half hour because you may not have enough information there. Hey, look at this. This has been an incredible show, and if we have to do it again, we're going to do it again, because I don't think we can have enough real world practicality, which is what I think this discussion today was. Now, Keith, Andy, Kelly, is there anything on your talking points that you'd love to cover here today yet?
We hit just a little bit about the smaller or the other ways of maybe getting a hold of the money, which we might want to say again through Cabbage, PayPal, and Intuit. And again, small bank, right? And banking relationships. But I think that those other forms of forums might work out good for some people.
Thank you for that. Here's a quickie, Hunt. Scott, the lender, had me submit record of any other draws. Would that be other COVID application or CARES?
Oh no, he's talking about owner draws.
Oh, owner draws. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Okay. Owner draws. Yeah.
Oh, all right, I missed that. Thank you. Okay, good, cool. Keith, anything?
No, we pretty much hit everything. Anything, just like Kelly just said, small bank, made a big difference for me.
Cool. Thank you, man. Andy?
Just there seems to be a lot of questions about the forgiveness aspect of the loan. It's pretty clear. I mean, you got to hit 75% of payroll and anything that you haven't, and this is designed to keep people off unemployment.
That's right.
So if your people are at home collecting unemployment,
get them back
and pay them, but they can't collect unemployment and collect salary. I mean, that is the whole point of this thing, is so that unemployment would not get hit. We're just going to put the money straight through payroll.
That's right.
I have a question for you all, maybe specifically to Hunt. As you can see, my hair is getting nice and long. What do you think,
Yeah,
everyone?
same
Huh?
here.
It's going to start curling here in the back.
Are you about
So-
ready to ask Hunt if he's going to come over and give you a haircut?
No, no. What
Someone
I was
come down
going
here and
to,
give me
I mean,
one.
he's good at everything, but he's not that good.
I was going to ask you, Kelly.
That would be a long flight.
Yeah, no, here's my question. So I'm a hair salon and I apply for PPP, but I'm a closed, unessential business. How do I bring my people back? What do we do? Paint? Do we do each other's nails and hair? I mean, I guess you're saying no unemployment. Here's the money. Get your mask and come in, or stay home. I'm going to pay you.
Yeah, I mean, that's really the tricky thing here, and I've actually dealt with a couple of this. Whether you have a hair salon and you're not legally allowed to open, or I have some people that have a daycare, and so they're like, well, they're going to give me money, but I can't even legally open up my daycare. So what am I doing here? And really, it all comes down to kind of like what Andy was saying. You know, the reason that they're giving you this money is to bring people back of unemployment. You know, let's say that you decide to use all of it. If you pay your entire team, you're essentially saying, hey, 8 weeks, I'm going to pay you. You know, if you're going to be paying them, then you can essentially tell them what you want them to do. So just like for a shop, you know, are we doing continuing education? Are we doing marketing? Are we doing stuff around, you know, the office, making sure that it's cleaned up, making sure that we're ready to go, you know, whatever it might be. At the end of the day, if you turn around and you give all that money to your employees, you're no further ahead or any further behind, even if you never opened your doors.
Okay.
You're getting ready for the doors to be open. So
Right.
whether that means a clean, a paint, disinfect, you know, I mean, I would be thinking all the things that you want to do when you're too darn busy to do it.
Exactly.
Or
I look
nothing,
at
because
it-
a big point of this was to keep businesses ready to reopen.
Right.
Exactly.
No, don't let them fold up so that the storefront's empty.
Right.
Keep them in status, you know, static, so that when we reopen, they can just fire back up.
I
Right.
think the operative word is retention. And
Yeah.
here's
Mhm.
why. In our industry, we need talent. We need smart people. We need trained people. And if we're doing it right, they're valuable. They know our business, our culture. They get it. They know it. I would not want to think that I'd have to open and start with 5 new anybody's
Yeah.
and struggle through that curve, not only with the opportunities that I think we're going to have coming in the door. So it's more about retention. Even if they can't come in, retain them by paying them with the PPP.
Yeah. Our 20 group is coaching. Be better than you were before. However that looks in your shop or your
Mhm.
business or whatever you're doing. You know, be better. Be better. Take this time to reset to be better than you were before.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And there's a ton of free online training out there.
Yep.
Yep.
In really high quality. My guys took a WorldPack class last week that they were just raving about how good it was.
Yeah. And there's, by the way, there's so much good stuff going on in our industry as
There
we've
is.
all reinvented the kinds of webinars and training that had never been available before, and the people stepping up to do some awesome and incredible things. I'm doing a lot, and I've been invited to do some that my schedule didn't quite work out. But yeah, we've got to partake in all of that. So thanks for the confirmation from everybody here. Thank you so much, Hunt Demarest, CPA, Parmelis. It's possible, Hunt, that you're going to have to come back and talk about when we're reopened again, and maybe we need to do something, you know, maybe in 2 weeks and maybe in 4 or 5 weeks to say, okay, so it's behind us. You got your money. What do we do now? And so maybe there's a post CARES Act that has to happen. If this thing goes on for a few months, maybe, who knows, maybe you'll be back sooner. Kelly Weatherby, Accurate Automotive in Mesa, Arizona. Andy Biziv from Midwest Performance Cars in Chicago. And Keith Katz, Quality Service Center, York, Pennsylvania. Man, great job, everyone. Thank you for supporting and doing this for the industry.
Thanks
you
for putting it
for
on, Carm.
Thanks, Carm.
See ya.